Most of us might stretch the truth about our computer skills to get hired. But today, we are looking at 49 Americans who completely lost their minds on their job applications. From claiming to be actual time travelers to listing dragon slaying as a serious professional skill, these are the weirdest, funniest, and most delusional lies ever found on real resumes. 1. You have to admire the sheer audacity of this guy. He applied for a high-level city planner role, boasting 15 years of experience in metropolitan infrastructure development and disaster management. That sounds impressive until the background check revealed his entire career was just playing the video game SimCity in his mom's basement. When the interviewer asked about his biggest professional failure, he didn't talk about budget overruns or zoning disputes. He spoke solemnly of the Great Llama Uprising of 2003. Honestly, if he can handle an alien invasion without raising taxes, maybe we should give him the job. 2. Most people pad their resumes with Employee of the Month, plaques, or safety certifications. This guy? Under the awards section, he proudly listed, survived a direct lightning strike. When pressed for details, he argued that the experience gave him an intimate and profound understanding of electrical currents that no trade school could ever teach. I mean, technically, he is not wrong. He is basically a human multimeter now. Although, you have to wonder if hiring a guy who acts as a magnet for high-voltage acts of God is really the best move for your insurance premiums. 3. We have all had issues with GPS apps sending us into a lake, but this applicant had a unique solution. He claimed to possess an internal, organically grown GPS system, powered by real-time traffic updates from his own psychic intuition. He noted that his only weakness was large magnetic fields, and that he occasionally had to reboot his brain after a strong cup of coffee. I am not sure I would trust him to deliver a pizza while it is still hot. But at least if he gets lost, he can blame it on a disturbance in the cosmic energy field. 4. In the competitive world of technical writing, you need to stand out, but this is ridiculous. One applicant listed his previous job title as Canine Ghostwriter. He claimed to have authored several best-selling dog autobiographies, translating barks, whimpers, and tail wags into compelling narratives. He was applying to write software manuals, arguing that if he can make a golden retriever sound articulate, he can make any boring user guide readable. Honestly, considering most instruction manuals make less sense than a barking dog, he is probably the most qualified candidate they have seen all year. 5. One applicant decided to skip the usual corporate jargon and go straight for science fiction. He listed his current role as beta tester for a future version of humanity, claiming to be a time traveler sent back to observe our primitive corporate rituals. The best part wasn't the claim itself, but his cover letter, which included a scathing critique of the company's third-quarter financial performance from the year 2047. You almost want to hire him just to see if his stock tips pan out. If he asks to be paid in bottle caps or antimatter, you know he is the real deal. 6. The reason for leaving box is usually where you put something vague like seeking new challenges. This candidate wrote, I discovered the company's entire business model was a simulation run by hyper-intelligent cats, and I could no longer ethically participate. As a hiring manager, where do you even go from there? Do you ask about the cat's management style? Do you offer him some catnip to break the ice? Or do you just quietly slide the resume into the shredder while checking under your desk for a tabby with a clipboard? 7. This entry is less funny and more of a cry for help. Under hobbies and interests, where most people write hiking or photography, a man simply wrote collecting friends. And no, he wasn't talking about the TV show. When the interviewer nervously asked him to elaborate, he sighed and quietly said he was still working on starting his collection. That is a level of brutal honesty that stops an interview dead in its tracks. You almost have to give him the job out of sheer pity, just so he has someone to talk to at the water cooler. 8. A woman applying for a meteorologist position decided her degree wasn't enough, so she claimed she was a certified weather witch. Her primary skill wasn't reading radar maps, but summoning rain during inconvenient outdoor company picnics. She argued this was a powerful negotiation tactic for getting more vacation days. And honestly, she has a point. That is a threat every manager would take seriously. Forget the forecast. If she can ruin the CEO's golf trip with a single chant, she deserves a corner office and a massive raise. 9. Everyone lies about their proficiency in high school French, but this applicant went rogue and claimed fluency in baby. And no, not goo-goo gaga talk. He called it pre-verbal infant communication. He argued that he could mediate high-stakes disputes in daycares. He was applying for a corporate mediator role, his logic being that if you can stop two toddlers from clawing each other's eyes out over a plastic block, you can definitely handle a hostile merger between two ego-driven CEOs. Honestly, considering how most executives act, he is probably overqualified for the job. 10. We all pull all-nighters, but one candidate tried to turn biology into a bargaining chip. He stated he does not require sleep due to a rare genetic mutation, and graciously offered to work 24/7 for a modest 20% salary increase. The HR department politely declined, likely suspecting he was either lying on a serious amount of illegal stimulants or a robot sent to destroy them. They figured he would eventually short-circuit over the office coffee machine or hallucinate that the photocopier was talking to him by Tuesday. 11. Leaving a job because of company culture is standard, but this backstory is frozen solid. A man explained he left his previous role as chief morale officer for a colony of Adelie penguins in Antarctica. His performance review apparently cited legitimate complaints about a lack of verbal feedback from the team and an excessive amount of raw fish left rotting in the employee break room. I don't know if he actually went to Antarctica or just spent too much time in the frozen food aisle, but you have to admire the narrative arc. 12. Under professional organizations, where you usually see boring trade unions, a candidate listed member of the Flat Earth Society. This is bold, but it gets crazier. He was applying for an orbital mechanics job at NASA. When the interviewer asked how he reconciled those two very different worldviews, he leaned in close, looked around the room, and whispered, "They only think I'm here to map the stars. I'm actually here to find the giant ice wall and the trapdoor." At that point, you don't call security, you call a screenwriter because that is a thriller waiting to happen. 13. The single greatest reason for leaving in the history of employment has to be this gem. Faked my own death to get out of attending the annual company-wide strategic planning retreat. That is not a lie. That is a confession of a felony committed for the sake of mental health. And frankly, having sat through enough corporate trust fall exercises and PowerPoint marathons myself, it is the most relatable thing I have ever read. Hire this person immediately. They possess the kind of extreme problem-solving skills and dramatic flair that this boring company desperately needs. 14. The languages section is a minefield of exaggeration, but this one takes the cake. An applicant confidently listed Java as a language he was fluent in, right next to English and Spanish. When the hiring manager started grilling him on object-oriented programming, the man looked genuinely confused. He then began talking passionately about his backpacking trip through Indonesian coffee plantations. It turns out he thought they wanted a barista, not a back-end developer. Close, buddy, but no cigar. Though, to be fair, programmers run on coffee, so maybe keep him around. 15. It takes a special kind of villain to invent the reply all button, but it takes a genius to put it on a resume. Applying for a job in internal communications, one man proudly claimed the creation of that button was his greatest contribution to corporate chaos. He wasn't apologizing for the email storms or the lost productivity. He was treating it like a portfolio piece. You have to respect the anarchy. He is basically telling you up front that he is going to watch the world burn, one email thread at a time. 16. A man applying for a job as a city bus driver decided his driving record wasn't enough. So he listed his previous experience as charioteer for the Roman Empire. He claimed a flawless safety record except for that one incident during the Gallic Wars, which he insisted was totally not his fault. He also noted he was exceptionally comfortable dealing with aggressive and demanding passengers. I mean, if he can handle a gladiator with a trident, he can probably handle a teenager with a boombox in the back of the bus. 17. We have all dealt with bad customer service, but maybe the solution is intergalactic. One applicant, aiming for a support role, listed fluent in Klingon under his skills. He argued it showed his dedication to handling difficult and aggressive negotiations in high-pressure environments. You have to admit, telling an angry customer, "Perhaps today is a good day to die," is certainly one way to de-escalate a call about a late package. It might not get him the job, but it definitely got him a place in the HR Hall of Fame. 18. Sometimes a lie is so specific, it becomes performance art. One man applying for a warehouse job claimed he was a level 80 paladin with a specialty in heavy lifting and divine protection. His cover letter even graciously offered to bless the forklifts for increased operational efficiency. I don't care what the manual says. If someone offers to cast a protection spell on the inventory, you hire them. You have to admire the commitment to the character. Plus, he probably has great loot management skills. 19. Let's pivot to IT support. One applicant listed Exorcist of Haunted Office Equipment under his technical skills. He claimed he could banish the demons that cause paper jams and cleanse the break room microwave of fishy spirits using ancient rituals. He was applying for a standard help desk role. Honestly, considering how often printers act like they are possessed by malicious ancient evils, this man might be the most qualified technician on the market. If he brings holy water to the interview, you hire him on the spot. 20. A candidate applying for a high-level productivity consultant role made a claim that stopped everyone in their tracks. He stated he had invented the concept of meetings that could have been an email. He wasn't joking. He presented this not as a flaw, but as a groundbreaking innovation in corporate inefficiency. He argued that his intimate knowledge of wasting time made him uniquely qualified to identify and eliminate it. For a very hefty consulting fee, of course. You almost want to hire him just to see if he schedules a meeting to discuss his fee. 21. Under the Special Skills section of an otherwise boring application for an accounting job, a candidate listed ninjutsu. When asked to elaborate, he listed his core abilities as stealth, infiltration, and silent movement. The hiring manager couldn't help but laugh, noting that these were, admittedly, the exact skills required to successfully sneak out of the office unnoticed at 4:55 p.m. on a Friday. If he can balance the books as well as he can vanish into the shadows, he might just be the perfect employee. 22. An applicant for a mundane data entry role listed human photosynthesis as a special skill. His argument? He claimed it would save the company significant money on lunch breaks since he could just feed off sunlight, thereby lowering their carbon footprint. The only catch was that he requested the office thermostat be set to tropical rainforest for peak productivity. I don't know about you, but a humid office full of plants and a guy staring at the sun sounds less like a workplace and more like a botanical garden. 23. What is your greatest professional accomplishment? For one man, it was successfully teaching a parrot to conduct performance reviews. According to his resume, the parrot had a firm but fair management style and gave excellent feedback. Unfortunately, the bird was eventually fired for excessive use of inappropriate language in the workplace. Be honest, wouldn't you hire him just to hear that story in full? It sounds more effective than most HR departments I have dealt with. 24. Under the skill problem solving, one applicant elaborated with a terrifying level of honesty. Expert at creating problems for others to solve, thereby fostering an environment of teamwork and collaborative growth. That is not a skill. That is a confession of being a terrible employee and a workplace arsonist. The punchline: he was applying to be a team-building exercise coordinator. You have to admit, nothing brings a team together like a common enemy, and he was volunteering for the role. 25. In the hobbies and interests section, one applicant simply put, dragon slaying. That is a bold choice for a generic office job. He was applying for a position as a risk management consultant. When the interviewer asked about it, expecting a nerdy game reference, the man just sighed heavily and said, "You wouldn't believe the amount of liability paperwork and fire insurance involved in that line of work." It is a level of commitment to the bit that almost makes you believe he has a sword in his trunk and a scorched shield at home. 26. You ever wonder what to put in the special abilities section to really stand out from the crowd? One man, applying for a data entry job, listed prehensile feet. Just think about that mental image for a second. When the confused hiring manager asked why that was relevant, the applicant claimed it improved his typing speed by 30% because he utilized a secondary keyboard on the floor. I don't know if that is peak efficiency or just deeply disturbing, but you can't deny he is thinking outside the box and outside the shoes. Though I imagine the office dress code regarding socks would need a serious update. 27. In the skills section of a financial analyst's resume, right next to standard things like Microsoft Excel and financial modeling, a candidate listed immune to government mind control rays. He claimed his immunity came from a special hat made from a proprietary blend of Reynolds Wrap and shredded IRS tax code pages. He noted that the tinfoil hat was sold separately and batteries were not included. Honestly, in the high-stakes world of finance, a little paranoia might actually be a professional asset. If you can dodge mind rays, you can definitely dodge a bad audit. 28. Under reason for leaving, an applicant wrote, "My dog told me it was time for a change." You might think he was joking, but in the interview, he insisted his dog, a beagle named Gus, was a highly intuitive career coach. He even pulled out a tiny paw print signed letter of recommendation from the dog. And you have to wonder, who do you call to check that reference? Do you call the vet? Or do you just throw a ball and see if the reference retrieves it? 29. A failed magician applied for a project manager position, and his resume was a tragic comedy of transferable skills. Under core competencies, he listed making large budgets disappear without a trace and sawing assistants in half, metaphorically, through poor resource allocation. At least he was self-aware. He said his greatest strength was misdirection, which is probably exactly what you don't want in a project manager. But hey, if the project fails, maybe he can just throw a smoke bomb and vanish from the conference room before the stakeholders start asking questions. 30. One applicant listed his previous employer as Dunder Mifflin Paper Company. Bold move. But then he doubled down and listed his direct supervisor as Michael Scott, providing a phone number. Out of sheer curiosity and boredom, the recruiter actually called the number. It went straight to a custom voicemail of a man screaming, "That's what she said." You have to give him points for commitment, even if his resume belongs in a sitcom reruns marathon rather than a serious filing cabinet. 31. You think your commute is bad? A candidate for a high-energy sales job listed his primary mode of transport as a fully licensed, privately owned unicorn. He claimed it was carbon neutral, ran on rainbows, and was excellent for navigating rush hour traffic. The hiring manager noted his application was, unfortunately, covered in an unidentifiable and very persistent glitter that got absolutely everywhere. I suppose if you are in sales, believing in your own product is key, even if that product is a mythical creature. Though finding parking must be a nightmare. 32. One man applied for a logistics manager position and listed his top qualification as Grand Master of Tetris. He wasn't talking about the game, he was talking about his car trunk. He claimed he could fit a week's worth of groceries, a stroller, 2 golf bags, and a moody teenager into a compact sedan without blocking the rear window. He argued that if he could organize that chaos, a warehouse would be child's play. Honestly, that is a transferable skill if I have ever heard one. 33. One man's resume claimed he single-handedly averted the Y2K apocalypse as a freelance project back in the late 90s. He didn't ask for a parade, a medal, or a statue for saving modern civilization from digital collapse. His asking price was a mid-level management position with a decent 401k and full dental coverage. Honestly, for the guy who supposedly stopped planes from falling out of the sky, that feels like a bargain. You'd think saving the world would at least come with a corner office and a reserved parking spot close to the elevator. 34. A candidate at a tech company claimed he invented the internet. Not that he helped invent it. He claimed he wrote the code for the whole thing in his garage. The cosmic joke? The senior engineer interviewing him had actually worked directly with Vint Cerf, one of the real fathers of the internet. That interview was so awkward, the silence was louder than a dial-up modem connecting in an empty room. It probably set back internet speeds in the entire building by 20 years, just from the sheer density of the cringe. 35. One applicant's entire work history was a single, baffling entry: professional stand-in. And no, he wasn't standing in for movie stars or celebrities. He was a stand-in for department store mannequins. He claimed 5 years of perfecting the 1,000-yard stare, rigid posture, and judgmental head tilts, directed at passing customers who were buying discount polyester. He was applying for a job in quality assurance, arguing that if he could stare at a shirt for 8 hours without blinking or sneezing, he could spot a stitching defect from a mile away. It is incredibly creepy, sure, but you cannot deny the man has absolute, unshakable focus. 36. Let's finish with a true legend of the genre. A man's resume claimed he was the original inventor of the dad joke. He stated he was looking for a new corporate challenge after perfecting the art of the pun-based groaner and alienating his entire family at Thanksgiving dinners. The cover letter is the real winner here. It ended with the line, "I'm not saying I'm the best candidate for this job, but I'm pretty sure my resume speaks for itself. Hi, pretty sure. I'm Dad." You almost have to hire him, or at least call security to escort him out before he starts making puns about the photocopier jamming. 37. A candidate for a high-stress medical assistant role claimed to have extensive experience in neurosurgery. That sounds fantastic until he admitted under pressure that his entire surgical residency was conducted at his kitchen table playing the board game Operation. He insisted he had a 100% survival rate, provided the batteries in the game didn't die mid-procedure. It is a funny bit, but please don't let him near a scalpel. He would probably try to remove your funny bone with a pair of electrified tweezers just to hear the buzzer go off. 38. The most regal resume I have ever heard of came from a man applying to be an assistant manager at a greasy fast food joint. He claimed he was the deposed prince of a small, ungoogleable European nation. His listed reason for seeking employment? His royal duties now primarily involved sovereign oversight of the deep fryer and taxation of the milkshake machine. It gives off serious, coming to America vibes, but with way more grease and significantly less Eddie Murphy. You almost want to bow when he hands you a burger, just in case he actually has an army waiting in the parking lot. 39. A man listed his entire professional history as professional sleeper for a mattress company's R&D department. His job description was testing the long-term viability of memory foam under extreme napping conditions. He claimed he was leaving the industry because he had become one with the bed and genuinely feared the HR department might start claiming him as office furniture for tax deduction purposes. It sounds like a joke, but honestly, getting paid to nap is the ultimate American dream. Where exactly do I apply for that position? And is there a dress code? 40. This one started with a bold, terrifying claim. My last boss was a literal vampire. The applicant listed the evidence in bullet points. His manager hissed at garlic bread in the break room, was strangely unavailable during daylight hours, and had a very unhealthy obsession with quarterly blood drives. He said he left due to the toxic work culture and a complete lack of soul. To be fair, that description matches a lot of managers in corporate finance. But the vampire theory is definitely more entertaining than just admitting your boss was a jerk. 41. A background check revealed a curious detail about one applicant's education. He claimed to have graduated from a major state university 3 full years before the school was even built. When confronted with this impossibility, he didn't fold. He claimed his diploma was part of the Founder's Season Pass package, which apparently came with a hard hat, a shovel, and full access to the muddy construction site. He is not a liar. He is a visionary early adopter. You have to respect the commitment to the timeline, even if his degree is written in crayon on drywall. 42. Under references, one candidate simply listed, Frank, the ficus tree in my old office. He claimed the tree would vouch for his calm demeanor, steady silent growth, and ability to photosynthesize under fluorescent lights. The recruiter, out of sheer curiosity and boredom, actually called the old company. The receptionist just said, "Oh, you mean Frank? Yeah, he's in the corner." Doesn't say much. If a potted plant is your best character witness, you really need to get out more, or at least make friends with a mammal. 43. A former Michelin star restaurant critic applied to be a school janitor. The reason for the dramatic career change? He was completely burned out from the high-pressure world of gourmet food and tiny portions. The school district, intrigued, found his old blog. His final, career-ending review for a 3-star restaurant just said, "The napkins were too starchy, 1 out of 5 stars. I'm done." There is something poetic about going from judging foie gras to cleaning up cafeteria mystery meat. It is the ultimate palate cleanser for a man who has tasted too much. 44. A candidate for a sous chef role listed his greatest accomplishment as successfully deboning a Thanksgiving turkey using only a spoon and intense rage. He argued this demonstrated his creativity, resourcefulness, and ability to perform under extreme holiday pressure. Honestly, that doesn't make him sound like a chef. It makes him sound like a dexterous serial killer with anger management issues. I wouldn't hire him, but I also definitely wouldn't want to be the one to tell him no, while there are spoons nearby. 45. Under work experience, a man listed his previous job as architect or within the matrix. His duties included reality code maintenance and debugging spoon physics to ensure there is no spoon. When asked why he left, he calmly explained he finally took the red pill, which led him to discover his true passion: middle management in the logistics industry. If the matrix is real, leaving it to manage shipping manifests and Excel spreadsheets is possibly the most depressing life choice ever made by a sentient being. 46. My greatest weakness is applause. That is what one applicant wrote under the weaknesses section. It turns out his previous job was professional mourner for hire at funerals, where his core skill was generating authentic-looking grief on demand. He admitted that in a sales meeting, applause might accidentally trigger his funeral face, causing him to burst into uncontrollable tears while closing a deal. Imagine winning Employee of the Month and sobbing on the podium like you just lost a beloved grandmother. 47. The most confusing hobby I have ever seen listed was competitive sighing. The applicant claimed to be the regional champion for 3 years running. During the interview, his demonstration sigh was so crushingly heavy, filled with such existential dread, that a potted plant in the corner simply gave up and fell over. It is not a useful skill for data entry, but it is absolutely perfect for working in customer service complaint departments where passive aggression is a survival skill. 48. This one is a masterclass in honesty through lies. Under the skill Expert in Delegation, a candidate elaborated, "For instance, this entire resume and cover letter were outsourced to my mother." The best part? He actually listed his mom as a professional reference to vouch for his exceptional delegation skills. It is a perfect, lazy loop. You don't know whether to fire him immediately for incompetence or promote him to CEO for extreme efficiency. He clearly knows how to get things done without doing anything himself. 49. A man applying for a job in accounts payable claimed he was a cyborg from the year 2342, sent back to observe our primitive financial systems. He listed proficiency in all known Earth currencies and 3 from the Andromeda Galaxy. His only listed weakness? The office Wi-Fi interfered with his temporal navigation, causing him to occasionally file invoices from last Tuesday or from 200 years in the future. Honestly, with inflation, those future invoices probably look absolutely terrifying to the current accounting department. Let's talk about the guy from item 13, who faked his own death just to avoid a company retreat. Is he a total psychopath? Or is he actually a genius who figured out the ultimate corporate life hack? I genuinely want to know if you think that was brilliant or insane. Defend him in the comments right now. And hit subscribe if you hate meetings that much too.